If you're going to target the audience like this, you can't spend 50, 100, 200 million dollars on these games.
No,
you can spend maybe two, but that the problem is it's just like the stuff they do for, all the stuff with Disney, the stuff with Warner Brothers, Sony, whomever out there, is that you can't just say, well, we made a $200 million movie, TV show, video game, whatever, that had a bunch of white dudes in it, and then say, well, now we have to turn around and we have to make a movie that we spend $200 million on that has no white dudes in it, because that's fair. If you're going to play the identity politics game, you're going to lose money. Renegade Online. Sweet Baby Inc. And we've been talking about this for the last couple of weeks. And Vera, I know you have too.
God, every time I hear their name, it's just, it's a ping to my sanity. I'm losing my last brain cell here with these guys.
I got to this story like 3 days before it was officially out for everybody. But when it was going early access, I'm like, this game's DOA. It's so dead. Nobody's going to want this. So
okay, for those folks in the audience, again, that used to be talking more about the Hollywood side of the entertainment industry. Well, gaming's obviously the other big side of that industry. Yeah. And, we've been talking about Sweet Baby in the past on all their adjacent friends and groups, like, remember Black Girl Gamers?
Yes.
And they decided to, hire some attorney from, I forget where he was from, somebody who did not know
the Yellow Pages.
He did not know the bear trap he was walking himself into when he got that letter back from our attorney, Ron Coleman. They ran away very quickly. But I mean, you get these kind of things out there where you can't criticize them, you can't talk about them because they're protected because of their skin color and their gender or whatever else out there, that we can't criticize the actual quality or not quality of their work. Well, here's another one. And Vera, maybe remind the audience out there, Sweet Baby is a DEI consulting firm. Some of the other huge hits that they've worked on.
Absolutely massive hits like Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Didn't lose Warner Brothers over $200 million, guys.
No.
They would never.
David Zaslav never said on an earnings call that we watched live that game was a real problem that fiscal quarter.
Yeah, absolutely not. That game infuriates me so much. I can't talk about it. I'm gonna be here for hours if we talk about that, and I'm gonna cry.
I won't make you go into a tangent on that one. No, they had a number of other winners out there too. They worked on a game with, wasn't it Square that they worked on, or Square Enix now? And then
so with the Square Enix situation, we don't actually know what game they worked with them on. Mm-hmm. The only ones that we know of were Black Girl Gamers worked on Forspoken, which
that's
was
what I'm thinking
Square
of.
Enix. Yeah,
that's Black Girl
Square
Gamers.
Square Enix's name was on Sweet Baby's page before they deleted it. We just don't know what they helped on.
And wait, tell everybody, because again, a lot of my audience doesn't keep up with all the gaming stuff as ardently as you do. Why was it that Sweet Baby Inc. decided to delete all those names from the webpage, the people that they were so proud to be hired by?
I mean, it just boils down to companies being afraid. I mean, it boils down to the millions of gamers that are boycotting any projects that they're touching. I mean, every single Sweet Baby Inc. game that has come out has either been completely dead on arrival or has faced major controversy. The biggest successful one they had was God of War Ragnarok, and even that faced massive controversy because of race swaps.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's been the big thing. Another feather in their cap. Sweet Baby Inc. This is from thatparkplace.com. If you're not checking out That Park Place every day, what are you doing? All the news you need to know over there for this industry: gaming, entertainment, Hollywood, parks, everything else. Sweet Baby Inc. game South of Midnight flops hard. Another SBI, Sweet Baby Inc. project crashes at launch.
This is revolutionary. I cannot believe that this is happening. I'm so shocked.
Amazing. It's amazing. It's another brutal blow for Sweet Baby Inc. and its embattled CEO, Kim Belair. The company's latest narrative endeavor, South of Midnight, has officially launched and crashed. And the results are nothing short of disastrous. What was meant to be a first-party Xbox Game Pass showcase has turned into yet another cautionary tale of what happens when identity politics take precedence over actual gameplay.
So I've been streaming the game. I've only did one stream. It's only like 8 to 9 hours long. So let's start off with that.
That's what we heard.
It's not like a long game. It is so terrible. You fight the same 3 mobs throughout the entire game. She's going around, and I guess I just didn't notice this when I was playing it the first time around yesterday when I was live streaming it, because to get the skill points, you go around and you collect these things named floof. They're cotton bundles. You're literally going around picking cotton to get stronger.
Wait. Are you serious?
I'm serious. I didn't.
This character on the screen.
Yes.
This
Yep.
character is running
Yep.
around in the game picking cotton.
Yes.
This cotton
I
picking
didn't
game.
realize it because they call it floofs,
I'm
and you
sorry,
get like
wait.
floof points.
I gotta
Cotton.
do this. Holy shit! What were you thinking?
And when you're going through the game, she sees like these ghosts of these slaves, and she's like trying to watch as they like liberate themselves.
I had no idea about that part. That just made this so much better. Look, I was about to make DEI, all this kind of stuff.
These damn
injecting this
Canadians.
politics and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, well, another DEI product that flopped. And I'm thinking, that sounds a lot like Snow White. And I'm thinking to myself, we just made a similar joke that Disney really didn't think this through, where they had a Colombian actress invade the house of a bunch of little white dwarves and then make them cook and clean for her while she squatted. And I'm like, yeah, probably didn't think that one through either. And it sounds like they didn't think this one through
Sounds
either.
like Colorado to me, but whatever.
Oh, God.
Yeah, these Canadians don't know what they're writing anymore.
This is absolutely amazing to me.
I mean, it's just a terrible game all around. Like even putting aside the very questionable like story elements, I think that the game is very pretty, but beauty is not a game seller anymore. Every game in reality should look pretty, but the gameplay's so bad. You're constantly fighting like the same 3 to 4 types of mobs. They're always in these tiny arenas. The gameplay is literally click an attack button and then a dodge button. It's just awful all around.
What kind of production budget or capital investment was in on this game here?
I mean, we're not sure, but
Okay.
Xbox did for Xbox Game Studios buy Compulsion Games.
Yeah.
So it seemed that they had a lot of hope with this. I mean, the last game they made, We Happy Few, did pretty good. We don't know the budget though.
That
but
team's gone. That
yeah,
team's gone.
Yeah, that team's gone.
Yeah, and that's just it. And it sounds a lot like Concord, right? Sony goes in. Concord was already, I forget how many hundreds of millions of dollars
They were almost 200 million into that when they went out and acquired the studio.
Yes.
Right, before Sony dropped.
And then they dropped another 200
million or something. And I know Grums had said he'd heard, or maybe Cabrutus, Endymion. No, it was Endymion. He told me that he'd heard it was even more ridiculous than that. But
It was because of how much they spent on the studio.
They were pushing what, 600 million at the end of the day.
At the end of the day, it was around 600 million.
It's
And
insane.
actually, another Sweet Baby Inc. title, Unknown 9 Awakening, the same thing happened. Bandai
Same thing.
Namco went out of their way to purchase Reflector Entertainment, spent roughly, as far as we're aware, about $150 million because they thought this was going to be a massive new IP. It was going to be a massive game. They had books on the way and comics on the way, and then it came out in a flop. They thought because
Sounds
they
like
had,
Disney Star Wars.
Yeah,
It
right?
is.
Well, they got the lead, what's her name? Anya Carlotta. She played Yennefer in the Witcher Netflix show, so they got her as the
I know the
lead.
one you're talking
They
about,
thought
yeah.
she was going to be like really big,
I
and that she
remember
was
this
a
game
new
now.
up-and-comer. Yeah, and then
Yep.
it ended up releasing, and it was a show.
Dud. It's a dud. It's avowed. I mean, we can go through a list of these, and then
Oh, yeah, there's a
like my
massive
prediction.
list.
My prediction this year was we would lose 14 game studios. We're already almost there. I was looking at it since the beginning of the year, and I'm like, I keep underestimating this. This is the 3rd year in a row I've said we're going to lose these many games, and I'm like wrong because
It's
there's way
amazing.
more.
I know,
Way
it's crazy.
more.
And people hate when I play this out there.
Here, vegetables. Thank you. So, I'm non-binary.
Who the fuck starts a conversation like that? I just sat down.
These are the games now, people. But no, real quick, just to kind of get back to this, and then I want to get some more of y'all's thoughts. Disastrous launch numbers speak volumes. Now, this is where I know I need a little help with this. My audience probably does too, because the numbers themselves, I don't track number of players, but this, I mean, I've seen some huge ones, millions, like with Black Myth Wukong or whatever.
Yeah.
But
2.4
Disastrous,
million.
yeah. I mean, while some defenders of this game try to soften expectations by pointing to Game Pass availability for this new Sweet Baby Disaster, South of Midnight, the raw data tells the real story. On Steam, one of the most reliable barometers of public interest, South of Midnight has barely cracked 1,000 concurrent players on launch day. And Smash JT, our buddy out there, said one of the most vocal independent or gaming critics said he noted that even a paltry 2,500 players would have been embarrassing. This game didn't even come close.
Yeah, it's absolutely abysmal. And,
wow.
you know, obviously it is on Game Pass day one, and so they expect a lot of people to play it that way, but developers still need independent copies to sell outside of Game Pass. So look at something like Starfield. I know it's Bethesda, very big game, but that was day one Game Pass, had 330,000 people on Steam. So while, yes, I'm sure that those numbers would have been significantly higher if it wasn't on Game Pass day one, but it's not like games do nothing on Steam if they're on Game Pass.
Yeah, this is...
Yeah,
oh,
here's
yeah.
the chart. But okay, so, but this was release day. And this,
Yeah.
maybe this game didn't have, you know, maybe it didn't have a giant $100 million marketing campaign behind it like you would expect from a $300 million game, maybe.
1,000 people is still abysmal.
Well, that's just it. And this is opening day. So, okay, surely word of mouth would get out. Surely Steam would build up behind it. No pun intended. But as it stands, I guess here, there we go. It ain't done nothing.
No.
All-time peak of 1,400 players. It's basically sitting there, and it's probably the employees at Sweet Baby and a few of their friends, and that's maybe not much more than that. So,
Well, Concord had remember, Vara?
It was
Concord had
2,500, I believe.
and they had people in the studio playing the game from launch to try to make it look
Concord
bigger.
and Sony put
Yeah.
Sony put what 50, 100 million behind the marketing for that puppy. I mean, they had a campaign, and I mean, I don't know if that really that's how bad Concord was, or this is really good for no money. And surely Microsoft put some marketing dollars behind this, but
Well, you also have to
obviously-
consider that they made deals for the long term as well, because for Amazon's Secret Level TV series, there was an episode for Concord that was clearly supposed to be like a teaser for a new character that was going to join the game.
They
like
had
they had
PlayStation
a
controllers.
Yeah, they had a long-term plan.
They had in addition to all of that, they planned this to be their long-term Fortnite game.
Yep,
This
they thought it was going to be like a Destiny and
an
Overwatch,
IP.
like a
Yeah, this was
banger.
their IP. I couldn't believe how much money they spent on that, and just how short. It was 11-day window you had to play that game. 11 days.
Rest in peace.
Peace.
Yeah. Well, maybe the answer is the same here. I mean, the article continues, and let's talk about this part. Narrative over gameplay. Why such an abysmal showing? The answer may lie in the fingerprints that Sweet Baby Inc. left all over the project. There's Kim Belair right there. And we played videos of her. I didn't have time to Q&A up for this show with the crazy days, but we played the videos of some of the comments that Kim Belair made. I think they might have one in this article. The things about, this was the chick that went out there at the Game Developers Conference, and we had the clip of
GDC.
You need to go make if they don't want to hire us, make them hire us. Make them afraid not to hire us at all. Basically,
you need to go to your marketing teams and you need to threaten them.
Basically go there and threaten them. And we've told people before that Kim Belair's business model is to use basically her skin color. Let's be honest. That's what she's trying to do, and say, if you don't hire me, you're a racist. It's the same tactic that we had back in the 80s,
dude,
with Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson when they used to do all the Fortune 500 company shakedowns for money. Hey, if you pay us, the Rainbow Coalition is not going to come protest out in front of your Wall Street building and call you a bunch of racists and bigots and everything else. Well, of course, companies are like, we don't want to be on the news with this. Here's a couple $1 million. Go away.
Yeah,
and that's what this is. This is what DEI, hang on, culture. This is what DEI companies are nowadays. It's that. They are basically modern shakedown companies.
Yeah.
Pay us to come in, and so we'll promote your game and say it's friendly, and we'll keep people off your back that otherwise would come in and say, why are your games so white? Or why they're all this? Or why don't you have enough people that look like this or sleep with this person? Or, a chick with a wiener in it or something like this. I don't know. But I mean, they want to run down this road, and all they do is want to get paid. but they have absolutely nothing to offer. It doesn't seem like.
No, they don't, because they're not hired on merit. They're hired on all of those, immutables. But that's not the point. This is the same type of quote unquote attack campaign that they're doing on Tesla right now. It's a limited form of an ism I can't say on YouTube that is just there to, terrorize people and do bad things. So it is what it is.
Because they're not actually good at the job they were hired to do, or else they wouldn't have to take to social media and say, I'm being harassed, I'm being this, I'm being that. They would actually be proving their worth within the company and within the industry, and they wouldn't have to be hired based on their skin color. They'd be hired based on the fact that they're good at their job.
It's the reason why they hijack titles that we know, that we love, for their purposes, repurpose them for the narrative. It's because they can't produce anything of quality themselves.
They can't.
Because you cannot. What is it? They're only capable of destroying. They are incapable of creation.
Yeah.
That's it. And do not judge me on the quality of the work or the merits. That's the thing that bugs me. But I switched over to a Chrome tab here so I can share the audio, because that tweet was in here of one of these things I wanted to play. So just going back down to the story here, back to where we were with Kim Belair, long known for their identity-driven, quote, narrative consulting. Narrative. What's the narrative?
I think that's so stupid. If your studio has writers that suck so bad at their job that they can't write a good narrative, you don't deserve to have the job in the first place.
That's it. That's exactly it. It's like, why even hire any writers if you're going to go outside of it to have consultant firms come in and tell them how your writers, how your own employees are screwing everything up every game?
I understand having like beta readers and people who are, giving feedback and opinion early, but this is completely different because they're looking over developers' shoulders and they're telling them to rewrite things and they're telling them this is going to offend somebody, so change it.
Well, this game was completely different before SBI and Microsoft got to it, because the developer, this was gender swapped. This is a gender swapped character. This Hazel character wasn't the original character.
She was race swapped. I don't believe she was gender swapped. I think she was always meant to be a woman.
Really?
Yeah, I believe so. I remember seeing the images of her with, lighter skin.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
You could be correct. It could be a gender swap. I
defer to you. Yeah, I defer to you, because all I know is that this was attacked for its immutables and changed. The story was changed. The creator had a completely different vision originally. So this was quite different. Now, I'm going to tell you, I really don't like the stop motion animation style that this kind of presented. So I was never going to buy this game, but good for you for trying to shrug off the fetters of the man. Well done.
None of it matters if the game isn't good, right? It doesn't matter what it looks like or who the character is. If it's not enjoyable and people are checking out after playing it for an hour, as I saw some people talking about, hour and a half, and it's boring as hell, well, it's not going to go anywhere. But I mean, and that's kind of what we've come to here with these DEI consultancy firms. That again, this is a cottage industry that didn't exist 6-7 years ago because there was no need for it to exist. And there's still no need for it to exist. This was an entire industry that was forced into existence because of political and social desires.
We have Anita Sarkeesian and Zoe Quinn to thank for the trend in the rise in narrative consultation companies within the industry, which, by the way, several months ago, Anita Sarkeesian posted about how she wanted to do consulting. So God knows what she's working on right now.
I got to ask a question around that, because Zoe Quinn is infamous, and the whole start of Gamergate to begin with was we were attacking the urinalists that were out there.
In journalism.
Yeah, and they didn't have any. Nope. And she was she was banging around, for access and information and all that other stuff. It was never about the gamers. It was always about the urinalists, and it still is. It's the urinalists and the people that align with them.
And it says it right here, from character archetypes to dialogue tone, gamers have spotted a clear pattern with this. It's the gameplay that takes a backseat to social agendas. And then real quick, this is the writer for South of Midnight, who herself is a black woman, just like Kim Belair. So, I mean, they're still hiring these outside consultancy firms to come in because, I mean, according to Kim, I mean, the whole reason is you have to bring us in so you can have black female perspective, or, for whatever to put in the game for the story, blah, 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 blah. But they hired one to be the writer of this game, which kind of makes me scratch my head even more. Then why would you hire Sweet Baby
Exactly.
anyway?
And with Kim Belair, the only reason why she got into the industry was because of Gamergate 1 and Anita Sarkeesian's. And of course, then they turned it around and pushed the narrative that, Gamergate 1 was just really a harassment campaign and it's all your fault that Gamergate happened. And it's funny because I constantly hear about, you're just a Gamergater. I was 14 during Gamergate, man. Like, I'm part of Gamergate too, but you can't blame Gamergate 1 on me. Maybe you should take a look at the journalists who are still a part of this industry, who still have no personal ethics, who still get paid for positive reviews and to shill for companies. Maybe if you actually started questioning these people, gamers wouldn't be so upset with you.
It would seem so, because then we get stuff like this, which is here is the writer for South of Midnight Games. I guess her name is Zaire Lanier. Here we go.
Saying I would definitely like to see more queer characters of color, not just just a white queer character. I would like to see more people that look like me.
That's such a
audiences
bother.
I'm like,
because it's always something else. First we want a black character. Okay, then we want a queer character. Okay, then we want a black queer character. Okay, then we want a black queer disabled character. Okay, like
that's trans.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I understand that you want to see diversity of characters, but you're getting like into very specific territory that maybe 0.005% of gamers actually want to see. And then you're making a product for virtually no one. And as I always say, developers can create whatever the heck they want. They can make the Dustborns and the Concords and the Flintlock, the Sieges of Dawns. The market will speak for itself. But these people just want self-inserts.
Right. And that's been the problem. And this is the same pattern that my audience knows well, because we've covered this exact same pattern at companies like Disney with the Reimagine Tomorrow program they have over there in the Stories Matter group. It's a DEI arm or a DEI consulting firm like Sweet Baby Inc., except that it's embedded. They're actual employees at Disney that do this in-house. Yeah. And I'm sure they still hire consultancies, but it's the same thing. When all those videos leaked back in 2022 at Disney from Reimagine Tomorrow, which was their DEI, employees meeting all on Zoom calls and stuff, the stuff that came out was ridiculous. I mean, all these creative directives out there saying the exact same thing. Oh, yeah, now I get to put gay characters and inserting queer stuff everywhere that I possibly could in all these Disney children shows. I'm the mother of one trans child and one lesbian child and I have two gender. I was like, what? But everything was a self-insert for either them personally or for their family member or whatever. And it's going on and on and on. And we get more of this.
A very vocal minority of people who are very much against inclusion of anything that's not, as we said, like a cis straight white man. But our existences aren't political, they just are. And I think that more and more people are expecting to see that kind of representation. And also,
wait, are they? Because still the last time I checked, Vera, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would fathom a guess. I don't know the stats, but I'd fathom a guess that straight white dudes are still overwhelmingly the gaming audience out there.
Yeah, definitely. And I definitely understand that there are a lot of different people out there who play video games of all different ethnicities and sexualities, and yeah, it's fine to have variety of characters, but it's straight up narcissism with these people. We need to see ourselves. We need to be this character. It's because they can't empathize with anyone else. It's like with entertainment, what makes entertainment good is having you be able to connect with a character because they are proud, because they are brave, because they are compassionate. To them, it's
universal
I need to connect.
Themes.
Yeah, I need to connect because I'm black or I'm queer or I'm X, Y, or Z politically or sexually. Like, that is ridiculous. Sure, sexuality is a very important part of a character. Skin color is an important part, but that shouldn't be what defines a character. These general themes of good versus evil or compassion or jealousy, those are the themes that should be the most important when creating a character.
Exactly. Good storytelling is good storytelling. It's been like that since forever, and everybody will show up for it. It doesn't matter. I think the problem these days is everybody has become, understandably and righteously, very sensitive to this idea that basically everything nowadays is just some damn virtue signal.
Yeah.
And people are just reflexively rolling their eyes, closing their wallets, and going home. And it doesn't help, especially that even in some cases where it was genuine or it wasn't really virtue signaling, the problem is that oftentimes, more often than not, it seems these days, it's not being followed up with any quality product.
No, it's not.
It's still a crappy game, or it's still a crappy movie, or it's still a crappy TV show. And then we get, oh, the writer's talking now. Now we're kind of figuring out what's going on, and you get more.
Expecting it to get broader as time goes on, as opposed to just having that same, like, you know, white gay guy archetype, or like Ellie in The Last of Us.
When have we had a white gay guy archetype in video games, like as a historical issue? Like, again, it's like the perspective of this person is so warped. It's unbelievable to me. But, you know, Vera, you said something earlier that you and I agree, and I've talked to my audience about this 100 times. The market will bear out what it's going to bear out. And there's nothing wrong with making a game about a black, gay, trans, disabled, whatever, identifies as a cat on Mondays. It really doesn't matter. The point is that, like you said, there's a very small niche audience. If you're going for identity politics, well, you're talking about an infinitesimally, almost virtually immeasurable audience.
And you need to understand that when you're making a game like this. It's like, I've made several videos over the past couple of months about Japanese creatives coming out and talking about how you need to find an audience and stick with it, because unfortunately with Japanese games, a lot of companies ended up shifting their focus to Western audiences and global audiences and overseas audience, and they're kind of leaving Japanese audiences kind of behind. And in some cases they're not, but there are a few that they definitely, most certainly are, like Square Enix, for example. And when you have this target audience that is for all of this virtue signaling, instead of, you know, listing off the 50 different things that she's saying, you need to understand that that's not a big audience that's going to show up to buy your product. So sure, you can make that product, but that's not what the general populations actually want. And the audience that they're referring to, this like modern audience who wants gay, trans, black characters, it doesn't really exist. The only way that it exists in your mind and in these companies' minds is they're just talking about sensitive snowflakes on social media who get offended over everything. If it's not representative enough, if it's not diverse or inclusive enough, well, then they're going to complain. So they think that that audience is much larger, but actually it's just people on social media who are going to complain no matter what. And they're not going to show up and swipe their credit card when you put out the next Final Fantasy game or when you put out a South of Midnight game.
That's just it. Because one of the things that, and the problem is, as you well know, it's just like a movie, but with games, it's kind of even worse. The gestational period for these games from conception to release on the market, it is a long time.
I mean, Dragon Age of Valgard was a decade.
Yeah. And the problem is with these studios out there, and you pointed out, that Western audience, right? And that's the problem, is they think they're making a game for the quote-unquote Western audience, but that's the trick that companies like Sweet Baby Inc. pull on them.
Yep.
And their localization teams and all this.
They convince these companies that this audience is massive when really it
doesn't exist.
It's not. It doesn't exist. Or if it exists, it's in very small quantities, like a couple hundred people.
And they don't show up, and they don't spend money. And look, I mean, I found probably all the people that are in this audience, and they spent about $80,000 on this woman's comic. It was a Kickstarter campaign in 2020 when she went into games. She came out of, Kickstarter funded comics to start making games or writing about games. This is a year lady. And believe it or not, if you look at her comic work, Lanier or whatever her name is, if you look at her comic work, it looks remarkably like this game as far as the character and everything else. So, I mean, did Compulsive kind of roll in, the art style and everything else? Probably. They probably hired the artist from this lady's Kickstarter. Regardless.
Yeah, and look, again, you can make a South of Midnight. But if you're going to target the audience like this, you can't spend 50, 100, 200 million dollars on these games.
No,
you can spend maybe 2 or 5. But that the problem is, it's just like the stuff they do for, all the stuff with Disney, the stuff with Warner Brothers, Sony, whomever out there. is that you can't just say, well, we made a $200 million movie, TV show, video game, whatever, that had a bunch of white dudes in it. And then say, well, now we have to turn around and we have to make a movie that we spend $200 million on that has no white dudes in it, because that's fair. If you're going to play the identity politics game, you're going to lose money. It's guaranteed at this point. The debate, I think, is, and y'all can feel free to disagree with me, I think the debate has been completely over now for at least the last couple of years on the financial impacts of what DEI has done to not only gaming in Hollywood, but a lot of different industries out there in the S&P 500 and the Fortune 500 companies across up and down different industry sectors.
Yep.
What did you pay for the game?
Which game?
South of Midnight.
I'm playing it through Game Pass, so I paid $0.
Okay, so but on Steam it's like what, $40?
It is $40. $40 for standard, $50 for the premium digital.
Yeah. Okay, what's the premium gives you an extra 20 minutes of gameplay, or what's going on there?
If only. I think it gives you a costume, and then I believe it gives you like the soundtrack.
Do they give you a bag to put the cotton in, or how's that work?
As far as I know, they don't.
Okay. I'm just curious. I mean, she's picking cotton.
Somebody's going to clip all those segments. We're talking about picking cotton and mix them up, and it's going to turn into something terrible. But hey, that's show business, I guess.
I guess.
We've got the receipts. So look, the result is this. It looks like Sony, and this came out along with this, may have already pulled the plug on Sweet Baby Inc. The collapse of South of Midnight couldn't come at a worse time, especially with the new rumors that Sony has already begun severing ties with the controversial consulting firm. We brought this up briefly in a show within the last week that we had. And Gothic Therapy revealed that a verified insider to her had claimed that PlayStation had started canceling projects with Sweet Baby Inc. attached, a potentially massive shift from one of the industry's biggest players. And according to the leak, these weren't isolated decisions either. They were described as targeted, deliberate cancellations, a sign that Sweet Baby Inc.'s involvement was seen as a liability and not an asset. Gee, it took them long enough, huh?
It did.
While still unconfirmed, the timing lines up with reports that Sony quietly shelved multiple in-development titles earlier this year. If even one of those had SBI's narrative fingerprints on it, the message is clear. Studios are finally rethinking the cost of prioritizing ideology over gameplay.
I find it very hard to believe, though, because a lot of companies right now are canceling a lot of projects. We're seeing a lot of layoffs. We're seeing a big shift. But it's hard for me to sit here and believe that Sony is never going to work with Sweet Baby Inc. again. Sure, I think that this live what was it called? The live service, like God of War game that's one of the cancellations. Like Sweet Baby was allegedly affiliated with that. I don't think they canceled that just because of Sweet Baby. I think they realized that live service slop is not selling right now. But could they work with SBI again in the future? Wouldn't surprise me.
Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.